Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Time with Nov Devon. I'm Mr. Usu, head of standardized tests. Today, we want to look at the reason why some candidates fear the reading tests when it comes to the IELTS or the OET or the TOEFL. The reading is not difficult. If you don't know the common mistakes that candidates normally do, then always you say that the reading I could not finish. And one thing about the reading test is that you have passages to read and answer questions under them. 40 questions for the IELTS that you are supposed to get at least 30 correct answers using 1 hour. If it is the OET, you have 42 questions to answer and 3 parts, and you have to get at least 30 correct answers. And that one also, you are using 1 hour. Now, what are some of the common mistakes that candidates normally do when it comes to the reading? Because if you are in the training center, every now and then the inquiries that comes in that I've written the IELTS twice. If you ask of the components of the results, their main challenge happens to be what? The reading. So today I'm here to let you know the common mistakes that candidates normally do when it comes to the reading component of the IELTS and that of the OET. The first common mistake that the candidates do is that they try to answer the question systematically, meaning that they want to start from question number 1 and end with what? The last question. No. The time given to you, if you know the technique that you are using to answer the questions, it's not necessary that you have to start from question number 1 and end with what? 40, especially with the IELTS. You can start from question number 40 and end with what? Number 1. So assuming you are having challenge with a particular question number, you need not to waste too much time. Quickly move to the next, finish, and later come back and rectify that. That's one. Also, candidates don't have technique to help them to get the right answers within the shortest possible time. And if I'm to talk about the technique for the reading in the IELTS, because IELTS reading passages are very lengthy, and IELTS questions cut across any academic field of study. So if you decide to read the passage before you start answering, there's no marks for that. After reading, if the passage is interesting or not, you'll not get any marks. The only time you could get your marks for the reading is to get the right answers to the question. So here, there's no need to read the entire passage before you start. Instead, go and read the question, pick up your keywords from the question, use those keywords to scan through the reading passage to identify which paragraph contains the keywords from the question. Then now concentrate on that paragraph and read. But even with this technique, it shouldn't take you more than a minute for you to locate the paragraph with the keywords. So if you know the technique, please work on the technique before you start answering a complete test. Thirdly, candidates also do this, which is very dangerous, that they tend to even not identify areas of their weakness or their strength. And that's very dangerous. So if you've been practicing, at least when it comes to the reading component of the IELTS, we have the objective type of question, the list of headings, matching, true, false, not given, filling type of questions, and labeling of a diagram. After you have solved a complete test, which area do you find difficult? Please, you need to work on your difficulty and improve before you solve a complete test. You don't just solve a complete test and once you are done, you think that you are okay. No, we need to improve on where our weakness is before we solve a complete test. And that's another reason for failure when it comes to the reading component. Next is candidates also try to go by, I need to finish reading passage 1 before I go to passage 2. No. If you have identified your strength and your weakness, and you've seen that on the day, the question paper in front of me starts with the list of headings, which normally takes too much of my time, you need not to start from reading passage 1. You can go and start from passage 2, passage 3, then lastly, you finish up on the reading passage 1. This is also another common mistake. So please, if you know your technique and you know your weakness, then you need to practice more. In practicing, this is what you have to do. Now that you know the technique, you need to practice the technique Don't solve a complete test. You are only working on the technique to be able to identify which paragraph within the passage consists of what the question is looking for. That's first thing to know. After you have practiced the technique and you are okay, don't solve a complete test. You need to try 20 minutes per passage just to work on your speed. So if for the first reading passage you were able to use 20 minutes, then the second passage also you were able to do that, but last passage you could not finish. It means that you spent too much time on the reading passage 3. So go and check among the areas for the reading model, which areas came under the third reading passage. It means that these are the areas that takes too much of your time, and that's your weakness. So you need to work to improve those areas before you start a complete test. And one very most important thing that candidates don't do is that when they try a complete test and they get, say, below 30, they put that test aside, go for another test and try. It's always best that every test that you are done with and you mark, you need to go over to confirm the correct answers from the passage. Simply because on any given day, if you meet similar questions anywhere, you will not repeat your wrong answer. This is not to say that IELTS, they repeat past questions. No. But it's always best that you need to go over and correct yourselves whenever you are done with the reading passage. So these are the common mistakes that candidates do, and it affects them. So the reading passage in the IELTS is not difficult. If and only if you know your technique, you know where your weakness is, you practice the technique, try 20 minutes per passage before a full test, and after you go over to confirm the correct answers from the passage. If you can go by these basic rules, then you need not to complain about reading when it comes to IELTS. Thank you for your time. See you another day. Bye.